Welcome to this week's edition of the Sixers Stock Report, presented by
our good friends at Bagels & Co., where you can get huge Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia. They rotate 15 to 20 different types of bagels seasonally, 30 different flavors of cream cheese, including themed cream cheeses for all the local sports teams, and affordable premium coffee to go with that. Guys, if you want to have the best Brooklyn-style bagels made right here in Philadelphia, head to www.thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels & Co. near you.
Some good croissants, too.
Oh, yeah.
Very good croissants. Very good
croissants. You might say.
Viva la France. All right. Kyle Newbeck, Derek Botner, I'm Devon Givens. Bree is producing, as always, here for our Sixers Stock Report. Stock up, stock down. We throw the end of the Sixers season players at you. We begin with one. After being eliminated in 6 games in the first round, Joel Embiid. Stock up, stock down. I can't remember the last time we actually talked because he was out for so long. He was out for a good couple of months. Stock up, stock down. Joel Embiid on the way out. Stock
I was
up.
going to say, there are going to be some people watching this who are going to be like, nope, they lost in the first round.
He's
stock
a loser.
Down for everyone.
Stock down.
And certainly after game 5, some people would have wanted that. But I think with the way they went out and the fact that he dropped that 50-burger to get them that crucial win in game 3 and the way they played there in game 6, I think it has to be unquestionably, look, they lost. We get it. Mm-hmm. He played good in 5 out of 6 games.
Yeah. I had a 50 ball, had a very strong game to end it. And even in moments where, like, certainly the fourth quarter scoring stats were bad throughout the series, and we don't have to put lipstick on that pig, but showed you even in those moments how valuable he is with the defensive stuff, right? Like if you go back and watch those games closely, he is all over the place. He's altering shots. He's blocking shots. He's stopping drivers. He's stepping out on perimeter players and forcing difficult shots from guys like Jalen Brunson. Jalen Brunson had better offense at moments, right? Like had a great series, but it just, it's so frustrating to see the same thing play out year after year. I know it's more frustrating for Joel than certainly it is for us or even the fans at home. But to see this guy be able to get to the levels he does and his body just can't cooperate, that'd be the only real path for me to say stock down, right? It's just to feel discouraged by the repeated injuries and everything he's gone through. Otherwise, the level that he's playing at over these last few years is extraordinarily high. He's putting himself in, elite company, not just in Sixers history, but league history. I know that's not something that everyone is going to be talking about right now as he's exiting in the first round, but this guy is putting together one of the best careers in Sixers history, even with all the playoff stuff. And I hope, for all of our sake, we get to cover at least one deep Sixers playoff run with Joel Embiid at the helm.
Please. Can we finally get one? Can we get a deep run there in the postseason?
Look, like I mentioned, he averaged 33, 11, and 6 in the first round. My major takeaway of the series was that he and Tyrese Maxey were a viable, legitimate playoff core.
No
you
more
need more
questions.
players around him.
Right.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people, like I said, they lost in the first round, 7 straight years, yada, yada, yada. There's more to it than that. And the way he has developed, the way he was able to perform there in the first round on one knee and half of a face, the team didn't reach what you wanted, but I think he was good. And I think the more we get, more time we put between ourselves and that disappointing end to the season, the more you can appreciate that he had a really good series. And I know there will be a lot of people who will focus on where he struggled. Like I said, that game 5 specifically, fourth quarters in general. But overall, on balance, he did enough for you to win. He was still a plus, I think, like a 48 or something in that series.
In a series that had thin margins.
And that you lost 4 out of 6 games.
Yeah.
You need more around him.
They need their Chris Middleton. Right? I kind of come back to that. As
Not like this year's Chris Middleton, like a couple years ago.
Although in the playoffs, he certainly looked
true.
like
He
old
turned it
Chris
up.
Middleton.
Yeah, he sure did.
But that guy who is going to slide into the background, be a complimentary player on a lot of nights, but when you need him to, can just pop up with 30 or 35 and swing a game, swing a series.
All right, let's move on to the next one here on the Stock Up, Stock Down Sixers Stock Report presented by Bagels & Co. Let's move on and go to one Buddy Hield. Interesting one because 6 games in the first round, he didn't play in all 6. Partly because he wasn't playing well, wasn't shooting well, but he did have a fantastic going away party where he helped bring that team back in that game, the second quarter, hitting those threes.
He did.
And pushing it and going into the next half, he was still knocking down the shots. Finishing with 20, I believe he finished with
20
in that game.
on 6 for 10 shooting. Yep.
Yeah, but it was only once. So do we go stock up, stock down for Buddy on the way out?
The reason
down.
that's down by the way.
Stock
There you go.
down.
And look, I think if they would have won Game 6, maybe forced to Game 7, they extend the series. He comes out and he's back in the rotation. They advance to the next round. He could have worked his way back to a stock up. But the fact that he pretty much didn't play after what was a Game 3, and you were dusting him off in Game 6, that is the bigger overriding theme of his playoff run and his playoff viability. And you're sitting here now, and we're barely even talking about the possibility of bringing him back, in part because he came up so small in that playoff run. You thought he was going to be a great fit next to Joel Embiid. That never really materialized in the way that we thought it would. I would have liked to have seen more minutes of those two sharing the court. Part of that, obviously, is the fact that Joel Embiid missed those 2 months, but even when he came back, they didn't play all that much together. But we can only base this grade off of what we saw on the court, and he did not do enough to really cement himself as a strong candidate to be back next year.
If we really wanted to get deep on the stock or the business analogy here, he is a good business that opened at the wrong time. The conditions for Buddy's arrival were, it's like the people who opened bars and restaurants in March 2020, right? Like did not walk into this team at the right time. I think if he comes to the Sixers when Joel is healthy and Joel's mobility is better than it was, I think you could potentially see more of who we expected, right? Like the guy who could run the dribble handoffs and do the 2-man game with Embiid and whatnot. And maybe he's not as equipped for that. I wouldn't say maybe. He's not as equipped for that as JJ or even Seth Curry were. But I think we saw him find a comfortable enough 2-man game with Paul Reed that Buddy had more to show and maybe wasn't able to. And I think Daryl Morey in his post-mortem for the season alluded to that and said there was a miscalculation here, or he did not live up to what
Daryl Morey almost literally said stock down during his end of season press conference. Yeah.
So when he says it and we all see the same thing, it's hard not to say stock down.
Stock down. I'm in agreement with the guys. Stock down on Buddy Hield. Stock up, stock down for our next Sixers player, and that will be one, also a free agent, Kelly Oubre. Stock up, stock down on the way out, but could he be returning? We're not answering that here.
That's
Just
an easy,
simply stock up, stock
easy
down.
stock up.
How did you look at his series as a whole?
Yeah, I was gonna say I think the perception of Kelly coming into the series was probably stronger than it was coming out, just because the offensive struggles over the first 3 or 4 games were very real. I think some people might have said stock down because they're concerned about how his offense translates to the playoffs. And quite frankly, I am too. Like, if you bring Kelly Oubre back, I think he should be in a 6th or 7th man role, not a starting role, in large part because of those offensive concerns. I will say I think the defense translates to the playoffs well, and that's why I'm not going to push back on a stock up here. I think he can be a playoff contributor on defense. I have questions whether or not he can be a viable high-minute, 25, 30-minute per game playoff performer on offense, and I think that showed it there in the playoffs as well. They really need that shot to get up to like a 35, 36% kind of range. If he does that, I do think he has a role. But I would agree stock up based mostly on his defensive performance.
Yeah, I think Kelly's problem and the Sixers' problem is exactly what you say, Derek, is that he had to be Kelly Oubre in a starter high-minute role versus let's say, 20 minutes a game, maybe 25 off the bench.
He played almost double that. He was playing almost 40.
Which is crazy, right? Like, this is all due respect to Kelly, who I think I certainly came to appreciate over this season for dispelling some notions people had about his game. and for buying in defensively in a way that I don't think I had seen, and most of the league had not seen on a consistent basis throughout his career. If he can discover that shot, just hit just 36, ideal world, high 30s% on decent volume, that all of a sudden becomes, he is a dangerous player because the slashing is good, the off-ball cutting, I think we saw there's plenty of value there, especially in the type of offense and the type of setup that Nick Nurse wanted to put around Joel Embiid. I am super fascinated, and I know we've talked about this on other shows you can see on PHLY Sports YouTube, obviously, but I am super fascinated by what the market will be for him this summer if people are buying in on what he was at times, which was an absolute, he went on runs where he's shooting 40 to 45% from three for weeks at a time, but that wasn't sustainable, obviously. So where is the middle ground, and where does his market emerge? Can't wait to see.
On the season, unguarded catch and shoot jumpers, 38.7%, effective field goal percentage of 58.1%. On guarded catch and shoot jumpers, 27.3%, 40.9% effective. The problem is he took more contested catch and shoot jumpers than uncontested. And that's something we mentioned coming into the season when he's left open. And look, 39% on unguarded catch and shoot jumpers isn't great, but it is league average.
Yeah.
If you get a league average, just floor spacing Kelly Oubre, that is a playable player. The problem is, like I said, the shot selection is still not there. Part of that came down to the parts of the season where he was playing without Joel Embiid, and you just needed someone to take shots. But even so, they need that to be 65% of his catch and shoot jumpers uncontested, and I think he becomes a much different player.
On his way out, though, a pretty good showing for the campaign overall for Kelly Oubre, where weren't really sure what you were going to get from the guy coming in on the league minimum.
It's hard to use campaign on with this team when they have campaign on here. You threw me off for a second there. I thought we were transitioning to a new player.
My apologies. Then I'll go with the season, not the actual campaign. Right. We'll go with the season. Final one. This is one that's not necessarily just for the postseason. It's also for the 5.5 years that he wore a 76ers uniform. Probably the last time that we really discuss him until free agency when someone else signs him. Unless he comes back.
Is that commentary or is that your call?
Tobias Harris.
I was saying I'm sick of him.
Stock up, stock down.
Are you gonna?
And Kyle said I'm sick of him,
No,
so I
you're
think
not
you got
gonna-
your answer.
Is there a stock through the core of the earth?
Can you combine
option
both
here?
of them and just like put the
I don't
lines
think
going
the sign
down?
doesn't really work like that. One goes up,
Kind of
one goes
designed to be a
down.
stock
Yeah,
up,
you
so
know,
it's
It was really rough watching.
He took 2 shots. Two.
In 29 minutes?
Tobias Harris.
Tobias
Yeah.
in 29 minutes in the final
Unbelievable.
game in the Sixers uniform. Where
You used to complain about that Game 6 against
Boston.
Boston last year. That was in Philly, but against
Yeah.
Boston last year, this was worse.
the only reason I say that one was still worse is because you were up 3-2.
No, you could have closed out.
And you could have closed it out, and you lost by 5 points. Where
He took
all you
fewer
needed was
shots
10.
than Ben Simmons did in Game 7 versus Atlanta.
Oh, jeez.
You realize that?
Did he?
I believe
What did
Ben
Ben
Simmons
have?
took like 5 shots.
I'll
in
look
that
it up.
game. I'm almost positive. Well, I mean, it's almost impossible not to take fewer. You only took 2.
Yeah.
Ben Simmons by accident could take 2 shots. Like, I mean, even in his lowest moment where he passed up the dunk with Trae Young breathing down his neck, right? He still was able to take more shots than Tobias Harris in the final game of this season.
And it's a shame because he finally had a good game in Game 5. And you're like, maybe
back against the wall.
Maybe
great
he can
game.
build off of that and get, because the 4 games before then he was a pretty much no show on offense.
Mm-hmm.
He spoiler alert, he did not build off of that.
Yeah, Simmons 2 for 4.
4. Okay, I was close.
2 for 4.
Still more than 2.
5 points.
He made as many shots in Game 7 versus Atlanta as Tobias took in Game 6 versus New York.
Tobias Harris's game score over the 6 games, 3-point game score average is about 15. 15 is an average performance.
Yes.
3.8, 9, 5.6, 7.4. Then he had the one good game in game 5, and then a 1.9 in game 6.
Wow.
Just
1 point.
Wow.
considering you're playing 35 to 40 minutes, just unacceptable.
In an
Unacceptable.
elimination game where you lose the game by, what'd they lose by? 5 in that one just because of free throws? But it was closer than that. It was closer than that. Oh, man.
It's
stock down.
It became so difficult to watch him those last few months. And there will be some revisionist history on him where people are going to act like that's who he was his whole career. That the level of passiveness was not there. Not to that degree. We certainly had our complaints about Tobias and passing up threes. Rarely in the first few years of that deal and after acquiring him was Tobias as invisible as he was in that game 6. And even with Joel being a high volume player, even with Tyrese being, ascending and becoming the high volume guy he is, there is certainly a lot more room for somebody like Tobias to take at least 3 shots, right? Let alone being like a normal third option for a team.
The only thing I remember from him from that game was making that one pass to Buddy Hield in the second quarter to the corner after he split
If
the
we're
2
talking
at the top.
about a single kick-out pass,
That's the only thing I remember, to your point. That's the only thing I remember.
A cardio game in a do-or-die game 6 is just despicable.
I mean, even PJ Tucker, who was pretty much the cardio man, gave you 3 threes in a quarter.
Cardio, man.
I'm a big Wedding Crashers fan, the movie. And one thing I always laugh at, there's a bunch of funny stuff in there, but it was Christopher Walken when they were at the mansion in the Hamptons, and he was like on the delayed part of the scene when they were playing football out in the grass, and he walks into the scene but starts jogging because he was supposed to be, I guess, jogging already, and he just starts jogging. And I think it was like an accident, and it was the cardio that made me look at what Tobias was doing in that game, and I'm like, you look like Christopher Walken at 60-plus years old.
I love Wedding Crashers, by the way. What a movie.
Oh, man. It was bad. Can I give you guys one more on the way out? Stock up,
Absolutely
stock down. Not basketball related.
Oh, boy.
But it is. It's fun.
We're going to... No, go ahead.
Yes.
This is Kyle's.
Yes. Stock up, stock down. Who gets to stock up? Who gets to stock down?
Oh, come on.
And the beef that, you can get some nice stuff on your bagel when you go get a sandwich at Bagels & Co. Go ahead and check out the stores located near you. Stock up for who? Stock down for who? Kendrick Lamar and Drake beef.
I mean, come on. And I know people are going to yell about it because both fan bases are entrenched.
Stock down for who?
For Drake.
Drake!
The number 1 song in the country is alleging that you're, I'm not going to say, I don't need any legal action on behalf of OVO, right? But come on, right? Like, to me, the most telling thing is less even that song. The song Family Matters that is supposed to be, that was the nuke, right? That Drake was supposed to drop. That song hasn't surpassed the other song that Kendrick dropped a week and a half ago, let alone the song that is number 1. And this is supposed to be like, he's Mr. Numbers, right? Like his whole, one of the big arguments was, I'm bigger in your city than you are. He said that directly to Kendrick. And right now in Toronto, Kendrick Lamar has the number 1 song in Canada. But I will say here,
Stock up, stock down.
How deep have you gotten into this?
I haven't
Devon?
gotten as much as you.
I mean, I spent far too much time.
Yeah,
on this. I've been very.
Yeah,
I don't want to say very invested. I've been very interested in how this has all played out as somebody who gets deep in the weeds on this subject, even if I don't always talk about it on Twitter. But
yeah, I had to throw that one in there, sneak that in there.
I have one more thing that I think is the most telling. So, by the way,
stock up Kendrick.
Shout out to Kendrick Lamar. Saw him. I was seeing him in little nightclubs in 2009, 2010.
Now he's destroying Drake in his own city.
The most telling thing of this entire beef and sequence is before Kendrick had released Euphoria. I believe it was on the freestyle that Drake did, or called it a freestyle. The song that Drake released with the AI Tupac and AI Snoop. He ends it with a monologue basically saying, you're not running away from this. You need to drop, and laughing at him. And the last 2 songs that Drake has released, Family Matters, he said, I'm going on vacation after Kendrick hit him back. And then after Kendrick hit him back, and then after Kendrick hits him back 2 more times, Drake says, oh, you got 10 more, you can release 100 more songs. You've cooked this. Like, I'm done with this. It's like, you got what you asked for, and now you're tucking your tail and running away.
I'm going on vacation.
I'm going on vacation. I don't want to hear from you anymore. Come on, bro.
Hey, like the guys say when the guys are eliminated from the playoffs. 1, 2, 3, Cancun. That's Drake and his crew.
Careful. Those are fighting words for Patrick Beverly.
Very true. I don't want to get a basketball.
Stock down on Patrick Beverly. How about that?
Pat Bev. And that is our weekly final regular season, postseason for games played, our version of the Sixers Stock Report presented by our good friends from
Bagels and Co.
Drake, no bagel for you.
No bagels for you ever, Drizzy Drake. How about that? Go to www.thebagelsandco.com/store-locator to find the closest Bagels and Co. near you.
We'll see you next week. Stock Report does not stop in the off season. We'll see you.
We all silly like the mayor.